Welcome to the Tiger Interview Series.
In this episode, I am with Kyle Attl of Blast Motion. We're talking about AR and VR. What does that look like for the future of sports? Also, we go down the route of possible changes that could happen in training. And lastly, we talk about metrics, we talk about data and practical use cases, how you're able to take numbers and really show them off onto the field with home runs, doubles, triples, you name it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Tiger Interview Series. I'm your host, Spiker Helms, and today we have Kyle Attl of Blast Motion. And if you don't know who Kyle is, you probably recognize his face. He is in all the drill videos, and by the way, it has helped me out a ton when jumping in on Blast Motion and first getting introduced by Jeff McGarry, and then with John Muscat, and they're explaining all these different numbers. And the first time that I was ever introduced to a wearable technology was the green little sensor that I will not mention, but it was very confusing, very hard to use. And then having Blast come in and Kyle being able to explain how to change different numbers, I thought that this would be an excellent conversation, because going through my journey, I know that there's a lot of parents and a lot of players that are also wondering, how do I actually change a number? So before we jump in, Kyle, let's get a little bit of an intro from you, and then we'll jump into the nitty gritty.
Appreciate that intro. Yes, so I am Kyle Attl. I am the Director of Professional Baseball Sales and Service at Blast Motion. I've been at the company for about 4 years now, which is pretty much when we started to launch the baseball product. I work a lot with our pro teams all the way down to our Little League consumers. So really had to tailor our message to each one of those. My goal from the beginning had always been to give some of the best information we can to make players better and coaches better. So really enjoyed my time here at Blast, and mostly some of the conversations that I've got to have. And that's probably what we'll be sharing here today.
So how I was introduced to, hey, do you want to interview Kyle? And it was Torval that said it. He's like, dude, he'll be dynamite on the podcast. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. And he's like, well, what would we talk about? He's like, bro, you could talk about biomechanics. You could talk about the metaverse. You could talk about anything. And I was like, this is exactly where I want to go with it. And biomechanics, when you hear that word, it gets a little scary, and you're like, oh my gosh, you guys are overcomplicating baseball, and you're going to get really confused by it. Can you give me because the context of biomechanics is very important when it comes to locking in on a player's swing and changing a player's swing. Can you explain biomechanics from a 5-year-old's terms?
Yeah. So that's what I do. I'm here to simplify things. So if I were to say that, it is looking at how a particular player moves or uses their body to best perform a task or affect a performance outcome. So it doesn't matter if you're pitching, you're hitting, you're throwing, you're trying to make a hoop, or you're Bryson DeChambeau at the Masters or something like that. So it's just looking at that. So what that does, it helps target training or areas of improvement, or understand physical limitations that can hinder technique. So it's really just taking a look at that, taking a step back. Having Joe on your podcast previously, looking at what analytics is, it's just using logic. So we're just gathering more information to help trigger or target some of those things. I think quoting Jacob Hauenstein here, assessment is good, but progress is better. So looking at biomechanics is trying to figure out where we are and where we can go to kind of make players better.
And at what point can you really dig into the biomechanics? Are we talking can I go with a 8-year-old or 12-year-old, or is it are we strictly just talking high school and professional? Where would you say the starting point is with biomechanics?
Well, I think depending on what level you dig into it, I think you could be at any age group. So we look at Paul Glazer's grand unified theory, which is pretty much just environment, task, and organism. So how does someone perform in different environments with different tasks? with different tools. So if you have a heavy bat, you have a light bat, maybe you're hitting with a tennis racket, or a kid's trying to perform a task, you're really just looking at where they break down or where they perform well. If you look at a baseball standpoint, sometimes people perform well off of the tee. Then when the ball's moving, they start doing a little bit better. And then as soon as it goes overhand with the pitcher, that's where things might break down. So when you're looking at biomechanics, you're looking at how they move in these different environments and at what point they change or break down to target your training there. If you're really good at underhand front toss, and then as soon as you get a little bit of velocity, that's when a small kid's swing goes down. That's when you're going to want to target right in that window where you're failing. If you think about like weightlifting, if you're trying to bench 250 and you're at like 190, you're not just going to go try and bench 250 all the time. You're going to target right around that fail rate. So when you're looking at biomechanics or what information to look at, that's probably the best way to start, is figuring out where they're trying to perform. And when you put them in different environments, how do they change? So you can do that as a kid. You can do that in high school where it's more targeted with training, or obviously at the pro level, they have as much information as you can to kind of move that forward.
Do you think that it gets a little muddy because coaches are using, they just use catchphrases and they use terminology? Do you think that's where coaching kind of breaks down? Is, I mean, you've heard it before. I mean, you're a baseball guy, hands inside the baseball. Like literally that's like the only thing that's shouted out constantly is hands inside the baseball, let it get deep, don't drop the back shoulder, keep your swing level. Like every single coach across America, you could be in New York, you could be in California, you could be in South Dakota. They're literally saying the same exact things. Do you think that that we have a terminology problem when it comes to coaching and they're not really digging deep into like the biomechanics?
Yeah, so a lot there. I think the way I want to go with that is there is an opportunity for coaches to figure out the best message for their players based on an age group. I think that if you have just out of the box things that you're saying and working with and the way you do things, I think that that coach has an opportunity to expand the way that they communicate with players, interact with them to kind of get a message across. From a terminology standpoint, I think there are a lot of like buzzwords or things that trigger people, and there are things that people lean into as well. But being able to have like a diversified portfolio of like how you say things, how you explain it. I think a lot of our drills talk to this with self-organization drills, putting people in like tasks and things like that. But as far as like a terminology issue, I think we could clean up what certain things are. And that's where I think when you get into the blast side of it, we're measuring some fundamentals, which allow you to have a personal stance and style. So incorporating all of those things, I think we could just be better in the way we communicate to individual players that we start to know and learn. I mean, the more you coach a kid, the more you understand how they are, what type of information that they like, and then you could target it that way. I mean, it could be see ball, hit ball far. It could be like, hey man, you need to slot your back elbow. So it could be intent, technique, internal, external cues, which we could dive into, but it needs to be a little bit unique. But I do think that there's a lot out there that could kind of get cleaned up.
So do you think what do you think is the best way to stop friction with your hitters? Because you know as well as I do, like one coach just sticks on a terminology. Like it's in my teaching, I do the same thing. Like I'll stick on a term like, hey, use your back hip, really want to throw that back hip into the baseball, but then it might not cue a hitter up. And then they end up saying, you know what, Spiker has no idea what the hell he's talking about. So like, how do you stop the friction between a hitter? Is it using technology, or is it being conscious of the psychology of the person?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I think the number one thing that you can do is explain the program and the process to your players. What are you doing? Why are we doing it? And breaking it down. And then if you combine that with a drill set that kind of lets them pick and choose which they want. I mean, if you're looking at big league stuff, those guys are trying to develop their routine. At the amateur level, they're doing the same thing. They just have a lot of other things going on, school, other things like that. So what you're doing is you're explaining the process. Hey, here's how we go about our hitting system. We're going to break down each concept as we go, and then maybe throw in a drill with it as well. So you're going to throw the whole boat at them in an organized way so that they're educated, they understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, they're going to pick the drills that they like the best and work with the coach to identify with data. Here are the ones that do best for you. Here are the ones that you enjoy as a player to kind of help get buy-in. So instead of just saying, hey, here are the drills you're doing, I think players should have options, which is what a lot of our drill packages and what I've seen some of the best coaches do is have things to choose from, but let the player be part of that process and help them understand where you're trying to go and what they're doing. Some of the best things that I've seen is I've got to go into a lot of pro organizations during spring training and listen to some speeches. Some of the best organizations take their players before they ever touch the field through a full presentation of what they're about, how they go, how they have the player's best interest in mind, how they're going to be a part of that process. And more importantly, like there are going to be struggles and failures, and there should be an open communication chain. So that goes back to just laying a strong foundation and then working with the players. I think that they should be part of the process. And that's where the most successful things that I've at least seen have gone through.
Are the best coaches using drills? Are they throwing as many drills as they can at the players, or is there like how do they approach the drill sets?
They have a bucket to choose from. So let's say in our world, we believe in power, contact, and consistency or plane connection rotation. What coaches will do where they say, here are all the drills that we like and we can get behind. If you're in a smaller organization, it's a lot easier to do that. If you've got 3 or 4 coaches at the high school level or the college level, you can identify here are the drills that we use and we like for certain things that we teach and buy into. You can use data like us to help understand what some of those fundamentals are. But when you've got a large scale organization at like the major league level or the out in the minors, you're going to have to really narrow those down and figure out what you are. But when you have agreed upon set of drills, then I don't necessarily care as a coach if you're using plain drill A or B, but that should be worked into your routine. And you should be able to give me feedback as the player, like, hey, I really like this one in my routine to get me ready. As far as that goes, it should develop into some sort of progression to hit in whatever that day's challenge or environment is. So that's where the routine thing comes along too. Like I shouldn't do a drill just because my swing's not going so great right now or I'm trying to improve something. I should find things that help fine tune my swing, and this is the coach's job too, but find which ones fine tune the swing and get ready to rock and use that in your routine on a daily basis. And then you fine tune them as you go. So you can throw the whole thing at them, and I think you should, but I think that it should be organized and laid out in a process. So for example, every day you go over a hitting concept. In blast, it's like early connection and then plane, and then we can go to like attack angle at contact. So we can get into each one of those metrics if we want, but if you explain early connection and then you give people 2 drills to do in the cage before we hit BP, then you can go from there. And then the next day you do the plane drills, and then you do the attack angle drills. And then at the end of the week, the players can say, here are the drills that I like the best. This is what I felt with them. And then if you have data to go along with it and be able to review it, that can be a pretty powerful thing.
So like how do you like I always get this I get in trouble because I think this is a little bit of a I don't think people agree with me on this. Maybe there are some people out there, but drill videos on the internet and the constant flux of videos after video after video. Do you think it's productive as a baseball community that we keep on producing these drill videos because of the creativity? Or do you really think that like, hey, we need to keep building and coaches just need to figure out what actually works?
Yeah, I think there's 2 sides to that. I think that the drill videos specifically on social are a great hook to get people in to ask questions and stir conversations. If you're out there, conversations go positive and negative. But I think what we need more of is coaches showing how those drills made people better and improved it. If you can show a guy that you or a hitter that you started with and you incorporated these drill sets, and then at the end of 4 weeks, you can show that player's progress and where it's come, I think that that's what we need a little bit more of from some of the drill packages. And then understanding that a drill could be something to just get a feel down and then move from there. So I think there's a lot of, it's really hard to get your point across in some of the character limits that you have on some of the platforms. But I think that there's an opportunity there for people to show more of the progress and going from there. It's definitely, there's definitely a lot out there.
How would you show the progress? Would it just be through numbers, or would you say like, okay, this is what the swing looked like mechanically here, and then this is what it looks like now?
It could be a little bit of both. I think if you're using Blast, there's video with metrics overlaid, so you could do a side-by-side. If you do have video, it would be great to show those metrics as well. But I think we're in a day and age now where we have so much information that you could show either one and it would be beneficial. But I think the root of that is to kind of get a hook in with some of your drill and stir conversation and then show that, hey, this is something that actually improved. I think if we can get more of that back end, it would be beneficial for the space and people learning, kind of digging into a lot of it a little bit deeper.
So from a player standpoint, do you think that we can't attack like all these different metrics at one time. Do you think that they need to have a solid plan? Like, okay, this week, these 2 weeks, I'm working on plane efficiency. These 2 weeks, I'm working on connection. Or these 3 weeks, I'm working on, let's just say, rotation acceleration. Like, do you think that they can attack everything at once, or do you think that it would be better to have like a planned out attack throughout the year?
It's a little bit of both. And I know that's kind of keep my default, but I like to get all the information out there. A player should get an assessment and figure out where they're at with, I know you talked about this on some of your other podcasts, but getting some game-like, real deal competitive swings in there and figuring out based on some of the target ranges that we have. I mean, we captured 90 million swings last year just in 2020 at Blast Motion. So we understand what some of the best are doing and what those target ranges should be. So if you can see something that you're clearly need improvement on, that should be your focus. As far as some of the other metrics, especially if you fall in range, this is where I think a lot of people underutilize Blast actually, is using it as a tracking tool over the course of a season. Using an attack angle or early connection as an example. A lot of times people hit a slump or they get a little something going in the middle of the season. And a lot of times people will train in the off season to get better, and then it's compete time. But if you just simply put that sensor on the bat and upload it at the end of the day with offline mode, one, you didn't do anything, right? It was the easiest thing you ever did. You put a sensor on the bat and you uploaded it. Two, now you have all this information. So when you hit your slump, you can be like, hey, my early connection is now 120 degrees. I'm a little high in my barrel tip. I'm not getting it into a good position to get on plane. So you can flag that. It's kind of like your light on the dashboard. So you should target training on where you can get better. But you should also use it as kind of just like a monitor check-in. So a lot of some of the best things that we've done is doing like weekly assessments or bi-weekly assessments where you're having a consistent environment that you're functioning in, whether it's a machine with a little bit of velo, an aggressive coach overhand BP or something like that. So that's that side of it. As far as what you're targeting, you also have to understand kind of the window. Things like early connection or plane or attack angle are a little more technique based, so those can be fixed. There's plenty of stories out there of a hitting coordinator going into AA or a coach working with somebody and you're identifying maybe a steep attack angle. You level that out a little bit and that performance happens in the game. Rotational acceleration is a little harder to change, and that's more of an engine. So if you're in the season, that's going to be something that you're probably not going to want to mess with a ton, but you can target in the off season very heavily because that's more of like your engine and how quickly you can accelerate the bat and kind of move from that standpoint. So I think, again, assessment is good, progression is better. So when you find something that you can actually progress in and track over time, that's kind of where you want to fall into it.
That's what I've kind of noticed after using Blast for the last 2 years is that the rotational acceleration, the bat speed, like those are the things that we're really grabbing numbers on during the winter training, and that's when we can actually make ground. But the on-plane efficiency is such a good controllable in season. I feel like I keep on telling my guys, I'm like, hey, you want to try to get your barrel in the zone as long as you possibly can because one, it's not going to guarantee you a hit, but your probability goes way higher when you're actually in the zone for a long period of time. So you got to focus in on that on-plane efficiency and find drills that are able to help you when you get tired in the season. Because you know how it is when even a pro season, like you're just so exhausted by July and you're just trying to find a way to get yourself up, and getting those little small drills is huge.
Absolutely. Some of those contact-oriented metrics like on-plane efficiency really helps you be successful when you're not perfect. And over the course of a season and facing different pitchers and going through the grind, there are opportunities like that. So totally agree, man. Those are awesome.
I find this interesting with Blast. Really, I feel like we're at the majority of adoption right now. That's just my feeling. I don't know. It would be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. But where do you think teaching's going in the next 5 years? Because it seems like I'm using Blast to get check-ins on my guys. Some guys use it constantly. They have to have a sensor if they want me to look at the numbers. And then we use it whenever they come in. But I do grab the Blast sensor and try to get my metrics on my guys at some point. Where do you think teaching's going with everything that's happening?
Where I think it's going is it's going to go more towards environment type training and really practicing in a competitive environment. So I think a lot of times in the past, coaching has been like technical, how you do your swing, getting ready off of a tee or slower, things like that. I think a lot of the game has changed a lot already, but I think we're going to continue to go in that direction. Um, Technology is going to give you where you fall in fundamentals, and then you're going to have to continually challenge that hitter in different environments. I had a really cool conversation with someone one time about like going back to how players train in the Dominican Republic and Venezuela. There was a big hop on that where it's like they just had, cardboard glove and they're just fielding ground balls. They're swinging a bat that's too heavy for them. And then what happened is in the Dominican, they started getting technology and they started seeing people and they started training a little bit more like we did over here. But I think in the United States, we're actually going to go back towards kind of training in competitive environments, putting people in different environments with different tools, with different tasks, like we were talking about earlier. And then using tech as kind of like, let me make sure my toolkit's ready to go. And then let's go test that toolkit in as many different places as we can. And I think what's going to happen is players are going to enjoy it a lot more too. You're going to have players who are feeling like they're in the game at practice, doing challenges, like competing against each other, hitting in more tough environments, making the game a little bit easier. So let's make practice 5% harder and make the game fall back to that instead of kind of slowing down practice to kind of ramp up to the game. We're seeing a lot of that now, but I definitely think that's kind of where it's going.
I always thought that the orange, you know what orange theory is, right?
Yeah.
So that's the initial thought that I had that would happen is that you would have sensors and then you'd have TV monitors and then you could compete with each other on a score like splat points. And then you can compete on like bat speed and on plane efficiency. And like those numbers are popping up on all the monitors in the cages. You kind of see it a little bit with hit tracks. Like if someone can afford 3-4 different hit tracks, it's almost like impossible. But I think like from a sensor standpoint, it's so you could see it. You could see that be a possibility. But where do you think we are in the adoption curve with technology inside sports?
I think we're right at the tipping point. I think that a lot of the gap between I'm an analytics guy or I'm an old school guy is closing in. And I think that we're just getting to the tipping point where people realize that this is a tool. Technology is a tool in your toolbox to help understand what's going on, target where you can go and get better. And isn't just like an end all be all. I mean, every player is different. Going back to the beginning of this with biomechanics, it's just every hitter is going to have the best thing that works for them. There are key fundamentals that people understand. I think it's going to be a standard, just like video was kind of a big deal back in the day. We're getting really close to having bat, glove, ball, sensor on my bat.
How do you convince players to treat their blast sensor or a wearable technology like their bat and their glove? Because you know how middle infielders are, though. If you touch the inside part of the glove, they freak out. My cousin on Easter, he was like, no one touches my glove, and I knew all about it. So he was like literally sitting on his phone, just tweeting away or whatever he was doing, and then I grabbed his catcher's mitt and I was just going like this. Oh, this is a great glove, and he's like, oh, freaked out. How can you get to a point where like that's my sensor, that I can't leave without the sensor or the wearable wrist watch or whatever?
Yeah, I think you going off of your example, right? Making sure that the player has a sensor to look at their data before you're going to work with them. I think it really comes down to coach education and how it's functioning in like the process of the team, how the program functions off of it, because let's take technology out of it. Players know that they got to put in extra work. They know that they got to hit it home without it. And that comes from the coach teaching them or their program teaching them and them understanding that type of stuff. So if we can communicate the value and some of the ease of use in capturing data, not just to see where your swing needs improvement or tell you what you're good at, but to track it over time and know where things change. I mean, when I was an infielder, one of the greatest things ever was someone came over and be like, hey, your butt's getting a little high, make sure you keep it down. Or, hey, your eyes are coming up, the glove comes up with it. We're starting to see that. Don't want it to happen in the game. Technology can be the same thing. Like pop on and say, hey, your bat speed's gone down a little bit. Instead of training a little bit extra today, maybe do more of a recovery day, things like that. So it comes in functioning with educating that player. I also think that players are taking a lot more initiative to learn about metrics, learn about what's out there to help themselves. I think in general, going back in any time, the best players are the ones that really dove into their own stuff to figure out how they could get better. And I think technology is kind of the same idea. So it's really cool to see a lot of players doing that, posting their stuff, doing research, working with coaches, spending extra time. So I think it really relates to a lot of things that we've already seen without tech. But now that we've got Blast, that's how I would go about it. I mean, there's a lot of great ways to do it. People wear their Apple Watches every day just to see, hey, I closed my rings. If I got my whoop, I hit my strain goal. And it's just like kind of a quick glance. Like you don't have to spend a ton of time, but I would look at my Blast at least, I mean, every day or every other day or at least once a week to say, all right, things look good. I might only look at it for 30 seconds or a minute. And that's props to some of our UI guys on the interface. But
It seems odd, like, why wouldn't someone buy in? Because whenever I have a guy that does say, yeah, I'm going to get a sensor, I'm going to get the full package, and I'm going to swing with it, it just, the training session goes a lot smoother, and we can actually target on certain things. And sometimes we don't even look at the Blast. Like they bring it in, but we don't even look at the numbers. But then there's other days where literally we are looking at the number every single swing because we're trying to nail down a specific move. It's just, you can't beat technology. You just can't. And I feel like we got to that point where the old school guys were fighting it so hard and they thought it was just, BS. Like, this is not going to happen. Baseball's always been baseball. And then finally it's getting to a point where I feel like they're kind of submitting to it and they're just like, you know what, if we can't beat them, let's join them. And it seems like a lot more people are jumping in on the bandwagon for sure.
In a lot of the conversations that we've had with teams, it was translating some of the stuff to coaches. I mean, my direct job was in like the minor leagues, getting people to understand our metrics. And a lot of the times at the end of the conversation or at any point in it, they'd be like, wow, you guys just measure that. I've been teaching it for a long time. So that's a kudos to our guys on kind of what they figured out to measure. It is fundamentals. Like, where are you when you're starting, the violent part of your swing, or when it's go time, where are you at? How direct are you to the ball? How long for the ride is the barrel? Like, where are you swinging at contact? So when we're getting closer to that, I think there's a lot more buy-in. And then, like you said, there's a lot of different ways to apply the tech. Like the fact that you're saying that you work with guys and you don't even look at the data during the session, you upload it after the fact. You can go ahead and look at what those swings look like on your way home, maybe while you're at lunch, to better understand where you are, where you can go. And that's so powerful. Like, I think there was a tweet back from, I think it was Robin Lund, but it was like referencing doctors before x-ray machines. Like, all we're really doing is now we got an x-ray machine. So why would you not use that? Like, oh, I think you're doing this. Like, why not check? Like, it's right there. It's so easy. All I had to do is put the sensor on my bat, and now they're going inside of bats too. So really, really cool stuff. And it's nice to see that tipping point happen and people start to utilize it.
Do you think it was kind of a communication thing in the beginning? Like, it was tough because the terminology was not, like, we weren't used to it.
Yeah, I think terminology was a big thing. In the early days, we had a lot of people think that on plane was like our attack angle, where it's like, I want to be on plane with the pitch. Well, it's like, yes, but that is our attack angle metric. So I think a lot of times it was terminology. And then I think early on too, we were kind of thought of as like a training aid, like, where does your swing need to improve? So you get a lot of people that are like, my whole team hits really well, we compete, like, but we're kind of more of like a hitting platform. Like, where are you? How do you fall? I'm tracking your stuff over time. It's that light on the dashboard analogy. Like, hey, my car lets me know when to change the oil. Could I track it? Yeah, I could, but I would much rather have that light on the dashboard or information right there for my team. So it's been really cool.
And also the interface had to get developed really well. Like, it was kind of a learning moment too. Like, you could see how the UI got a lot better as time went on. And then obviously when you started being able to make it easy for like start a session, end a session, and then the tagging mechanism of each swing, I think that was huge as well.
It was really nice to improve our product. I think this is a testament to all the great conversations that our staff had with our customers and people out there that are helping moving the needle forward and doing a really good job. But having people understand our metrics into terms that are normally used within the game. I think Jacob and I gave a presentation at ABCA a few years ago, and we got a lot of good feedback, especially at people who kind of understood our stuff. But then we also got a lot of feedback that was like, that was awesome, I just don't really know what to do with it or how it applies to me. So we really had to take that and be like, okay, how can we do this for people, and we worked, and that's how we got to these concepts of power, contact, and consistency. When you go back to Pablo Sanchez in backyard baseball, like he had power, contact, and speed, right? So it's kind of the same idea. And then we just put our metrics under there. And it used to take me 20 minutes to walk through and kind of explain stuff. And now I can do it in like 2 or 3 just based on, power profile, contact profile. Like how fast does your bat move at impact, bat speed, how quickly do you accelerate, rotational acceleration. They're like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. Like you can have a lot of power at contact, but if you take a long time to accelerate, it's going to be a pretty hard time when you face better pitching, higher spin rates, multiple pitches, stuff like that. So we've come a long way, and it's a testament to our guys at Blast, but also the people we work with out there coaching players and making people better and moving their programs forward. So it's really cool to see all that come together, especially in my role. Is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's almost as if someone just needs to jump in and experience it. Like it's hard to like make that decision if you don't experience it, and then just keep on repetition. Because like it's scary. Like when you started when we started getting the sensors, I was like, man, this is something new. Like I'm intrigued by it. I'm interested by it. But at the same time, it's like, man, I got to learn all this terminology. But then at the end of the day, the thing that helps you is that this unlocking mechanism of, oh my gosh, this makes perfect sense. And then you're able to look at different videos or different conversations on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and you're able to jump in on the mix, which is super fascinating. So, cause like Josh Donaldson, when he came out with that video on MLB Network, everyone went absolutely crazy. And most of the stuff that he said was pretty on point. It was pretty on point. So, new technology, you hit on it a little bit, from a sensor standpoint. Do you think that there's going to be more sensors that are going to be coming out on like defensive stuff and like pitching and anything like that? Do you think that stuff's going to be coming into play, or do you think that's not tangible?
I think it will come into play. I think that there's some technologies that are used kind of at the highest level. I think the mass adoption of that, price is a big one too, trying to figure out a way to do it a little bit cheaper, but getting sensors on arms or bodies for people to move and understand how they do that type of thing, I definitely think that's in the near future. But I think a lot of time it's application of it and how it can be rolled out. I mean, we made sure that we fit into baseball. I think that any technology is going to have to do the same thing.
How do you see that playing out, like on arms and stuff? Like, do you think that it's going to actually be similar to Blast, where it shows arm speed and deacceleration and like angle? Do you think that's a possibility?
With an IMU sensor, you can actually measure anything. You just got to tell it what to measure. I think sensors in like an arm sleeve is something that could happen. I know that there's stuff out there now, or there's other companies that do it with the camera to kind of track the movement and find certain angles. So it's just going to come down to who can do it, who can be accurate, which is something that we took a lot of pride in early on and still do. But once we get there, it'll be super beneficial, especially if you can combine it with video. I think that's incredibly important. Getting a video, a tracer, or some sort of visual to go along with the number is going to make those types of things successful. But people are information craving right now. They want to know where they're at, where they can improve, help them understand where they're going to, like we said at the beginning, target the best move for them to continue moving forward.
What's the future for Blast? Are you guys on that sensor? Is there anything that you could share with us on what you guys are working on? Without giving out anything where DK comes in and looks at this video and be like, oh, we got the secrets.
Yeah, I think we're looking at how we can build upon what we have and then enter new markets as well. We are always trying to push the envelope on what we can do and providing insights and profiling a player, especially on the hitting side. That's what we already do now. And then we'd love to expand other sports, different movements, things like that. So that's all I can really say about it now, but we are not at our final stage. We're still going to push the envelope forward. We are an information company. We're going to continue to provide good information to athletes and coaches to help them be the best players or versions of themselves. That's our goal.
So baseball players can still get pretty excited about the Blast sensor and be like, okay, there's going to be some upward growth with this. If I buy a sensor now and get hooked in, there's going to be some more new updates and features that are going to be coming out.
Absolutely. It is. You're not buying the final product right now. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to more visuals, more profiles, more things like that. It'll be really good. And then Our advanced research team is really looking at some of the hardcore metrics that we have now that we have so many swings, digging into the rotational profile, like how speed is developed, what peak measurements are. Like rotational acceleration is the first half. There's still that second half to explore before you end up hitting bat speed. So a lot of good stuff coming. Good time to get a blast sensor. A lot of value there.
Metaverse. I've been very big on this lately. I'm very fascinated with it, obviously, with cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Again, this is a baseball podcast. I don't want to go down that route. Me and Joe could talk about that forever. It seems like we're talking on the phone and he's like, dude, this is going to be so awesome. This is going to happen and this is going to happen. And then I just egg it on and it just jumps crazy. What do you think is in the horizon for sports when it comes to the metaverse? And people that don't know what the metaverse or they're new to this podcast, it is the digital world. It is augmented reality, virtual reality. If you think that that's far-fetched, just look at Adobe Max's 2019 rollout with their new products. It's coming and it's coming fast. So what do you think is on the horizon for sports in the metaverse?
As far as what the things that we're talking about right now, I think virtual reality or some sort of visual ability to either have at-bats, revisit your at-bats, see certain things. I think that'll be a super powerful tool. There's companies out there that do that now. I think Win Reality being a big one of those. There's a lot of other ones too that I should probably mention as well. But I think that it's going to go in that direction. I mean, why not? Having that video was big. This will be the next big thing. We're always trying to get more information. It's definitely going to be part of it. It's just a matter of when and how they're able to do that. I think a lot of the cool things that you'll see will start coming together. There's a lot of things that are planted in different spots. Think about like the umpire view, then you got virtual reality, you got systems in stadiums that track every movement of every player and how they move, and it'll just continue to combine that way. But I would have loved to be able to get more at-bats in a headset that was realistic, revisit some of the things that I actually did. And a lot of times too, like if I'm not playing shortstop that day and I watch someone else make a play, like it would be really cool to be able to see what that guy saw. Like, how did he react?
Wearing glasses or something?
Because like, oh, would you have made that play, Kyle? Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, I would have loved to be able to go in there. Like, oh, you would have made that play, wouldn't you? Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, I wasn't in his shoes at that time. So yeah, there's a whole way to go about it. But I think that some of the technology that we have, and then getting into some of the capabilities that we have with technology today, I think it's just going to continue to advance.
That's an interesting thought. So if you wore glasses that were able to capture video and then you were able to plug into that video and see those different types of plays.
And then I think another big part of it too is being able to sync all the other data sets. So if you have that on a shortstop, right, and then you've got contact from a blast motion sensor, like how quickly did you move to that ball? Did he hit it? So we can actually see like, are guys moving before the ball's hit? Is that intuition there? How delayed it? You know, like, hey man, it's taking you a long time to react to that ball. Or hey, wow,
that's so true.
As soon as it happens. So one of the big things that's going to happen with technology is it's going to consolidate. You're going to figure out how to match things up. The best techs will rise, the ones that are easiest to use, the most transparent in baseball, where you don't really have to do anything and it really helps you out. Those will come together and then eventually be synced up to give the best data set. Going back to like the virtual world, like my data on Google is important. But if you take that information on what I Google, what I look on Instagram, what books I order on Amazon, so the more data you gather, the more powerful that information is. So baseball can be the same thing. It's like, I have your hitting metrics, I have what the pitcher did, I've got your reaction time on defense, I've got how much you move, how much unnecessary movement you have in the game, things like that. So I think the data sets will build, and it's a crazy time. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Do you think that's going to be the ending piece is going to be the sensor? The sensor is able to do all of that for us, or is it going to be something else that I'm not thinking of?
I think it'll be a combination between like optical radar and a sensor. I think that that's the best world, because there are certain things that a sensor can do that optical can't. And then obviously optical can do some things that a sensor can't, which is see. So I think a sensor optical combo is probably the best. I would love.
People that don't know what optical is, Rapsodo, HitTrax uses optical, right?
Yeah, optical or radar would be like hit tracks, Rapsodo, TrackMan, or at the big league like Hawkeye, Statcast, that type of thing.
Do you think that teaching's going to get a little bit easier with virtual reality worlds?
It's going to be a little bit of both. You're going to have way more information, but the challenge is going to be not overwhelming people. Like if you sat a player down and you're like, here's 105 data points, like we're going to start taking in, like translating that is always going to be the hardest thing is translating the information so that it's applicable. Um, Having a conversation at whatever level you need to is probably one of the best things that coaches can figure out how to do and not just have the same message and the same little window, but could you talk to somebody at the deepest level of how this is working, what the numbers are? Can you talk to, like we said, like, can you explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader? So being able to have that range is super important.
I always think of Dance Dance Revolution when it comes to virtual reality. I could totally see that happening where you can get into a virtual reality world and then you could match the swing of a major leaguer or the steps of a major leaguer or a collegiate player. Like I could, or even like your instructor. So the instructor can actually take you through the actual move, slow motion. And it's almost like Dance Dance Revolution without the music and the high steps and all of that. I was really bad at that game, by the way. So
Why I remember the song Drop the Bomb from that, I don't know, but wow, what a metaphor. That is
yes.
incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think from an improvement standpoint and an experience standpoint, going back to like the game of baseball, and if I could see how, a Corey Seager or somebody like reacts to a pitch and like be there and go through their movement and actually feel it or see it or work with a coach that way, that would be an incredible experience.
Yeah, I think and this goes to the point of like our blast motion conversation, and then also you mentioned on Win Reality. I think the most affordable items right now that will give you the biggest impact for majority of baseball players that are trying to reach college level or professional level is one, you got to have a blast sensor. That's number one. But two, look into trying to invest in Win Reality because that's literally a game changer. You have a huge unfair advantage when you're able to take in 90-mile-an-hour heaters right before a game. Like BP is important, but if I'm able to get some actual reps where I'm seeing a 90-mile-an-hour fastball that's not in a machine, that's huge because you know how machines are. The timing just jacks you up and you can't get down on time. It's miserable. Did not like the machine.
Machines are a challenge. I did not like him either, and as I got a little older, I started to appreciate him a little bit more, especially on the coaching side. But yeah, from Blast particularly, like the process oriented, right? You want to control your process, what you do, and then if you can dial in your process, whether you're a coach on how you communicate, the system that you talk about when we were talking about rolling out a hitting system with concepts and what drills you want. But if you can focus on the process as a player or a coach, that's where we're at. And I think that's one of our advantages is we are really good at measuring process-oriented metrics. What do you do, and how does that affect your result? And then how does your result change in different environments? So going back to task, environment, organism, like how do those things change? How can I change them? And then where does the swing or that player either succeed or start to fail? And then we can target training from there. But totally agree. I mean, for like one or two hitting lessons, you can have blast motion for the whole year and continue on to use it and gather your information. So,
Do you think traditional sports are in trouble with esports on the rise, or do you think that's just a section off? I know we were like talking about like how great the metaverse is going to be. We're so optimistic, and I'm kind of going pessimistic here. Do you think esports is going to challenge actual sports, or do you think that's just going to be there's going to be people that are going to gravitate both to traditional and e?
I think it'll be a gravitation towards both. I think it's definitely going to give traditional sports a run for its money. Baseball is America's pastime. I think that we've got a long way to go before anyone really, really gives it a run for the money. But the uptick in esports and that whole world is incredible. So it's definitely going to give it a run for its money. And I think that that's one of the driving forces to push traditional sports forward with some of the things that we've talked about today. Data, information, visuals, tying it all together, and then the experience on top of it.
So I sent out an email to our database and got some really interesting questions. One question from a high school coach. He said, "I'm curious to know how you would recommend a small high school with a small budget who uses Blast within their program. How would you incorporate Blast if you had a handful of sensors and did not have the ability to get every kid set up with a Blast account?"
First, work with one of our reps. There's a lot of things that we can do to help get everybody a sensor. But the second part of that is if you can get every player a profile to store data, then you can have one or two sensors as the coach. And this is definitely specific to this use case here, but have a regular assessment with players on a weekly basis, or have certain guys that do their assessment on certain days. That way that data is still going to their profile. It's more important to have good data than more data, right? Get good data and then figure out how to get more of it. So if you get 30 swings on a guy every week and it's in the same environment, then you can figure out where you're at, target training, reassess, and then go back from there. So in that specific situation, you would have a sensor paired to the coach account, or maybe a couple of them, and then you would be able to select each player, and you can go in and say, okay, Kyle's hitting today. Take this, I'll upload the swings for Kyle, and then the next day it could be like, Spiker, you're hitting, we're going to capture data on you. And then each player can still log in and get their profile. So that's a situation where you're going to get good data, not as much, but it's going to be more valuable than having more data.
Can players, I actually don't know this answer. Can players create a profile on Blast with not having a subscription?
You need a subscription. That is your profile. So you would not need the hardware in that situation. But in order to do that, you need that subscription.
Second question was actually from one of our directors in Pittsburgh. He said, "I think one of the best questions to ask is if there is a way in the future to put together a mini training plan for parents. We help them with a ton with with metrics, visual breakdowns, but many love the drill videos and just do them offhand. Any input on helping with generating plans inside of the Blast Motion app?"
Yeah, stay tuned. That is our next step. We had everything out there, and it was definitely like an a la carte. Pick what you like, experiment with them all, kind of put in your own plans. A lot of people love that technique. Like, give me some stuff to function into what I already do. But we realized that there's an increase in people that are just like, I trust you guys. I need a plan, and I would like one from you. So stay tuned on that. We're pretty excited.
So you guys are going to actually come out with actual plans that you can select and literally say, all right, my on plane, I need to get more on plane with the ball, or I need to increase my batting average or increase my power. You'll actually have a plan on how to do that.
If you need to target, let's say, on plane efficiency and some of your contact oriented metrics like on plane efficiency and attack angle, we'll have training progressions and plans that will tailor towards that so that you can follow. I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to go into this environment and test it out. So
is it going to be like, is it going to be like month plans, or is it going to be week plans, or you just can't say yet?
I can't say yet, but I think we're going to try and tailor it to all the different needs. If I need a quick hit, if it's going to be more of a full off-season progression. But I think also you should have a test retest model, like if you do a 3-4 week plan and that gets better, you might have something else that you need to focus on or target. So probably be a little bit of both.
So before we close out this conversation, I find it very interesting that you do the drill videos, and you're also on the professional sales side of, like, you're hanging out with like the general managers and hanging out with the pro players, and then here you are doing the drills. How did you get into creating the drills and that became part of your job?
Yeah. Funny story. It was not part of my original job description. I came in to kind of do the first part of what you said and explain some of our metrics out and kind of do the teaching side. And literally on my second day, they were like, can you do some of our metric definition videos to put in the app? Like, we need it end of week. I was like, yeah, sure. Like, give it to me. So I sat down with our biomechanics guy at the time, and he handed me this like booklet of them. And I kid you not, my first round of videos, I was just like a ghost, just like I didn't even blink. Like, it's kind of a long joke around. So if you were with us in those early times, like, thank you for staying with us. But then we needed to redo them, and I was kind of just that go-to guy, and I started doing them. And I really took a liking to it. We had a really good video production guy at the time, or a couple of them, that really taught me
Oh,
a
he
lot
was
of good
awesome.
things and made me look a lot better. I think Biller came out, or Rob, either one of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, I love those dudes. I would do anything for them. But they taught me a lot, and then it kind of evolved, and I really started to enjoy it. So that's how it kind of came about, and I just kind of never looked back. So it was somebody needed help, and I was there to ready to help. So it ended up.
That's a good learning lesson for anybody. It's just like, hey, just jump in. If they say, hey, can you do this? Yep, I can do it.
Yeah,
You'll figure
I
it
will
out.
do my best. That is a great phase. Like, I will do my best. And sometimes it's pointing somebody in the right direction. Sometimes it's coming through for them, but it's really solid.
Yeah, the funny, how I learned that lesson was in pro ball. We were on a away game, and the coach was like, "Hey, have you ever played left field?" And I was like, "Yeah, I played left field." They put me in left field. Never played it in my life. First hit was almost a home run. I had to rob it. I was like, and then I was walking, and I told the coach, I was like, "I've never played left field ever in my life." He's like, "Okay, I will never put you out there again."
That's awesome. Wasn't there the LSU guy that did that? He was the pitcher. He's like, "You hit in high school, right?" He's like, "Yep, I did." And he ended up hitting like a walk-off. I mean,
Yes.
you got to have a little bit of confidence. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's your favorite drill video that you've done so far? Like what? Well, yeah, like what drill video have you liked the best so far?
The funnest shoot I had was with one of our younger players on some of the progressions. We're out at the field. If you've ever seen like the six ball hitting progression or some of that type of stuff, that was my favorite physical shoot. It was a really good time. We actually had a player. It was a lot of fun, good family, that type of thing. My favorite drill is bat on the shoulder. I think that it's a good combination of self-organization and constraint. Constraint drills prevent you from doing certain movements and also promote doing good movements. So it's a little bit of both. And then you have to figure out what works best for you. Sometimes people will adjust to different pitches with their spine or their tilt. Some people will use their legs. So all of my favorite drills are going to be the ones that fall into the self-organization category. Like, how can that hitter best complete the task with what they're given? So those are my two answers. That was the most fun shoot I had. And then my favorite drill is bat on the shoulder, or the other one is the rhythm drill, where you do the 5 swings nonstop with the rewind. That's really important because you have to be efficient. And as a coach standpoint, you can choose when you throw that ball to either make it more challenging, make it more like load specific, and kind of play and have fun with that. So my favorite drills are always the ones that show you where to look, but not necessarily tell you what to do.
Yeah. So for people that are listening to the audio version of this, the shoulder on the bat drill, can you explain that really quick? Where you put that?
Yeah, bat on the shoulder, you want it right on the outside of your shoulder. So if you think about taking your top hand and just making the bat parallel to the ground, you're going to put it on the outside of your shoulder, and then put your left hand up top so your elbow's up a little bit and that wrist is flat. And then you're just going to get in your normal stance, and you're going to swing from that bat right off of your shoulder. So it'll come right off of it. This really helps with on-plane, early connection, having everything go the right way that it should. And then from there, you can just progress your way up. You take that from the back of or from the outside of your shoulder up to the back of your neck, and then eventually progress up to your normal stance. So that's that drill. And then the rhythm drill is you take a dry swing. This is a soft toss base drill, or maybe a front toss. But you take a dry swing, and then the first rewind, the coach is going to throw the ball so that that hitter just loads, hits it, rewinds it, and you do that 5 times. So it's like kind of a nonstop, continuous thing. If you check out our training center just directly on our website, those drills are all free. If you do have a Blast account or subscription, you can go into the training center and check out some of those drills. But
Kyle, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate it. Where's the best way that they can reach you if they want to see you on social media or email, whatever you prefer?
yeah, I think I'm going to start trying to be a little bit more active on Twitter. So Twitter handle is @KyleAttl. Pretty simple. If you want to email me directly, it's kattl@blastmotion.com. I think those would be the best 2 ways right now. And then I always try and follow up. So I'm always happy to answer questions and go from there. But
And the website's blastmotion.com.
website is just blastmotion.com. You can shop, you can access our training center. You can look at some of the videos that we've done with programs that implemented our technology very well. And it's a great place to go and get more information.
Guys, I will be putting all that in the show notes. So if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, it'll be into the description box. So all the links will be there for you. Kyle, again, thanks again so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you later.
Absolutely. Spiker, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Hope everyone has a good rest of their day.